Now we are going to talk to Sean Shapiro from The Athletic, though, about the Dallas Stars, and as I said earlier, a little bit about the Kings. Sean Shapiro from The Athletic joins us. Thanks so much, Sean. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. How about you guys?
Doing great, thanks. Before we get into the Stanley Cup Final between the Tampa Bay Lightning and your Dallas Stars, I want to talk about the Rookie of the Year vote, the Calder Trophy. You gave Matt Roy a fifth-place vote. And you said, sorry, go ahead.
I didn't think that would be such a groundbreaking thing, just to be completely honest. Like I know there's lots of people who are talking about their ballots and about why they didn't have this person or that person in the Hart Trophy voting or anything like that. And I was not expecting to be the only person to give Matt Roy a fifth place vote. I'll be completely frank about that. So that kind of surprised me.
So I mean, we all love Matt Roy, obviously, but I'm curious, at what point in the season did his name even get on your radar? Like, I wouldn't have even thought of him as Rookie of the Year for the Kings necessarily when you had guys like Blake Lizotte, who maybe for Kings fans might have been a little bit more of a prominent name. So at what point during the season did you catch wind of Matt Roy's season?
Yeah, I mean, he's someone who, when the game against Dallas, he was actually pretty good in the game against Dallas. That's something that when I do look at my ballot, I do keep in mind what I saw in person. Obviously, you can't use that as everything because one game here or there may not be the best way to judge a guy, but I think you do have to take that into account. And then the other thing for me about him is when I was looking at kind of Rookie of the Year voting, and I put a lot of value in being a consistent good defenseman at a young age, more so than being able to score power play goals with a good shot just at 20, 21 years old. And that's kind of where it came down to me. I looked at when you look at the rookie class and Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar, obviously both great defensemen impacting the game all over the place. But you look at some of the other forwards, and none of the forwards to me in this class really stood out to me of like, that guy's a Rookie of the Year. That guy should be on my ballot. Those guys were more of, okay, there's a guy, there were some good goal numbers, power play goals, or even in Dallas, I covered Denis Gurianov and I see him on a nightly basis. Denis Gurianov was not consistent all year. And to me, I think consistency is a huge thing. If you can show that consistency, that to me says a lot about what you're able to do as a first-year player compared to just those counting numbers with goals. And that's where kind of you start looking through this and you start thinking about guys who might fill out the ballot after that top three that everyone should have had in Fox, in Makar, Hughes, and Fox. And then you look at, and not to be disrespectful at all, but Kings were not a good hockey team this year. Just to be, they were not a good hockey team this year, and
no offense taken.
Yeah, and they struggled. But when Matt Roy was on the ice, and you look at them across the season, they actually weren't a bad hockey team. And I know some of the deployment may have been a little bit more favorable for a younger guy, but when you take a look at when a team has struggled like the Kings have, and a guy and a defenseman is playing 16, 18, 19 minutes a night, and the team is a better team during that stretch. And I know plus minus isn't the greatest stat, but on a team that was a pretty minus team finishes that positive, that to me speaks to consistency. That to me speaks to that is something a first-year defenseman is not supposed to be able to do, even on a good team. To me, that's why he filled out my ballot. Now it wasn't, I didn't think, it's kind of a bummer for him for how good the rookie class was, because since you can only vote for two defensemen for the all rookie team, you have to vote for Hughes and Makar, obviously. And so he didn't make my all rookie team ballot, but I had four defensemen on my Calder ballot. So, and I thought his consistency, and combined with what I saw when I saw him play, that to me stood out as this is a first year player that is doing really great, really good things for a first year player on a very bad team.
Jesse, I feel like we clip all that, send that to Coach Todd McClellan, and Todd will go, that's exactly what I've been saying all year long. And Sean, the nickname that Todd gave to Matt Roy was Steady Eddie. So what you're saying about his consistency was equally echoed throughout the locker room all season long by the head coach. So I back that vote, and we both got a kick out of it, and we're very excited to see that when we saw, I'm not hiding, I'm the one that voted for Matt Roy. It was me.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, a lot of happy Kings fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something where I didn't, as I said, I didn't think it would be that big of a deal. Like when I was putting my ballot together, this wasn't an attention grabbing look at me vote. Even I wasn't leaving Draisaitl off my ballot. I wasn't leaving Carlson off my ballot. I was literally just, okay, well, who do I think fits best in the 5th place spot? And that's what it was. And I thought it was just funny that there was, when all of these ballots come out and then you see a bunch of people like quote tweeting the thing and like, who voted for Matt Roy?
Who
like,
did that?
like, okay. Well,
Is there a
can you
bit of
say what?
anxiety too, thinking about who's going to want to know, who voted for that person? Is there some anxiety going into the voting process?
I think there should be kind of having that transparency is good. And I think that's something that I think in a way that's good. I think because I think it should make people put more effort into paying and actually thinking about all of their ballot. The other thing too, and it's just, that's why I kind of made the joke, kind of said like, hey, yeah, I voted for Matt Roy. I'm not afraid to say that. Don't be afraid to, I think a lot of the people who had a controversial ballot and aren't saying anything are the ones that are nervous about it now. And when really you should have been confident in how you were voting in the first place. So that's kind of an issue with the entire voting system, I think, because you sometimes get people throwing homer votes and stuff like that. Like I easily could have given Dennis Gurianov the 5th place vote as the Stars beat writer. That would have been easy. I would have gotten a lot of Stars fans saying, hey, great, you gave Denny a vote. And I did not do that. I was not like people who gave Tony DeAngelo a Norris Trophy vote, which I don't understand at all. But that's a conversation for another day.
Sean, I do this every year, but you're here, you're a voter, so I'm now going to pitch you my idea for how I think the awards should work moving forward, because every year there's a controversial, vote, or you can take a look at who somebody voted for 5th, for any of the awards. And you go, what? This person gave that, and at the end of the day, it's one 5th place vote. It's in the case of Matt Roy, we love it, but in other cases, it drives people up a wall. But here's my proposal. Tell me if I'm crazy. I say any award that deals with on-ice performance, like measurable, I don't want to say measurable on-ice performance, but the Norris, the Selke, the Vezina, the Ross, stuff like that, I would divide them into divisions and let the players nominate one player per division. So take all the forwards in the Pacific Division and let them nominate who they think the toughest defenseman in the Pacific is, and go through all that. And that's how you get your finalists. And you wind up with your 4 finalists, and then you turn it over to the media and let them rank them 1 through 4.
You love shaking things up, Jesse. You just love it.
You
put it in a paper and you go, this.
I just think it's like, I know how much time it takes me to come up with my opinions about the Kings.
Yeah.
And I know how difficult it is to follow one team. And Sean, I imagine you cover the Stars, right? I'm sure you spend a ton of your life thinking about the Stars.
Yes.
I wouldn't expect you to know every player on the Montreal Canadiens roster.
I like your idea. I like your idea in theory. I think there's merit to it in a couple ways. I do think there is a bit of issue too, where I think there are some players who, and you're going to run to this either way because there's some media members that don't take the ballots as seriously as they should. But I think there are some players. Mm-hmm. I think there are some players that will only vote on reputation, or you'll get one, or you run into the issue of maybe there's one strong voice in a locker room of, like when the Stars were here, Jason Spezza when Jason Spezza with the Stars, he watched more hockey than the rest of the team combined. So in that scenario, I would imagine the Stars players get the vote of, hey, let's vote for the best defenseman. The locker room's going to turn to Jason Spezza, and then everyone says, oh, we'll just vote like Jason Spezza. And so I think I like your idea. There's definitely some merit to it. I think there's some hurdles to figure out to it, but I don't think it's a bad idea. My idea that I've always thought would kind of, for the awards voting, there's 2 things for me that I would like. I think one, I think the Lady Byng voting should be voted on by officials. That's always been my take, where I don't think the media members should really vote on that, because all that one turns into is, well, let's sort penalty minutes and points, and that's all people do. And then the other one that I just because, and this is more of just I'd be really curious to see how people voted. I wish they forced the GMs to divulge their ballots for the Vezina, because I would love to see which GMs voted for their own guy and because that's the one ballot we don't get to see. We don't get any transparency on, because they protect the GMs on that. So But your idea is not bad. I think there's a couple hurdles we have to figure out, and maybe there's, I don't know. But
I mean, there's some tweaks I left out. Like, I don't think you wouldn't be able to vote on a player on your own team.
Okay.
Right. You keep it anonymous. So at some point you've got 12 guys or 14 guys, depending on the size of the roster, maybe more. You could expand it to AHL players, I guess. And, you're looking at 15, 20 votes amongst forwards for the Vezina, for the Norris. Also think there should be 3 different defenseman awards, offensive, defensive, and overall. I don't know. And at the end of the day, also, you just wind up with more content, right? Because then at the award ceremony, you've got, you can break it down into conference winners, right? Like, who was the Eastern Conference Norris Trophy winner? Who was the Western? I don't know.
I don't mind that part. That's something where I think that's something that's always worked well with baseball, where they have the AL and the NL Cy Young winner. And I don't know, maybe you do one overall MVP, but just you look at, I see every team in the Western Conference at least 2-3 times, at least 3 times, and in a typical season. And in the Eastern Conference, in person, you see them once at home, once away. And
right.
If a guy, say you're voting on like the all goalie for the All-Star team or something like that, if I see them play the backup goalie one game and the other guy's a bad game, that's the whole sample size. And so I also don't think, I wouldn't have an issue with that. If I only voted on the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference based media, I don't know if that would work either, but there are definitely some tweaks that, but your idea is creative too. That's also one of the more unique ones. I like it.
That's why we love
I'm an idea guy.
Yeah,
that's right.
He's
That's right. So we fixed the postseason voting. Now let's go ahead and fix the Dallas Stars, who find themselves down 2-1 against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Listen, you excused yourself from offending the King, so I'm going to go ahead and take a swipe at the Stars here.
Oh.
I tweeted out after Dallas won Game 1 that they're 3 games away from becoming the first wrong team to win the Cup since the 2003 Devils. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take that back. I don't think the Devils were the wrong team in 2003, but one of my favorite questions is, has there ever been a team that won the Cup that was the wrong team? And the one that I always come close to say that came the closest was Buffalo against Dallas in, 99? If Buffalo had won that would have been the wrong team.
Oh,
but they didn't.
Yeah.
So, dodged the bullet. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying that's the thing that everyone forgets. Like, everyone in Buffalo always says, "Well, Brett Hull's goal shouldn't have counted."
Right.
That was Game 6 of a series. The team that won the President's Trophy was up 3-2 in. Like, that's like, Stars may have scored 4 minutes later in that same overtime. That's my favorite part about that. But continue.
So now the Stars find themselves on the other side of that equation. I mean, if the Stars win this, they're the wrong team, right?
I think they're the wrong team by the traditional, like, hey, Tampa's the favorite, but I don't think Dallas is the wrong team based off of this isn't a team that was even a wild card team. I mean, this was a top 4 team in the Western Conference. This was a team that you take off the 1-7-1 start and the 0-4-2 finish to the regular season. They had the best record in the NHL from October 27th until February 25th. They had the best record in the NHL. So it is a team that is incredibly streaky and incredibly weird. I admit that completely. But they are, to say they're a team undeserving, I don't think that's fair to say they're undeserving. I think the wrong team narrative fits because everyone will look at, okay, well, this was supposed to be Tampa and it was supposed to be Colorado or Vegas out of the West. But I think
or Calgary, according to you at the beginning of it all.
I did pick Calgary. I picked against Dallas in every round. They looked terrible. Like they did not want to. They looked at the round robin like they did not want to be there. That's the most amazing thing to me about all of this is where they found a switch where they decided to basically play the round robin like 3 exhibition games and if that, and then somehow flipped a switch. So that amazes me. But
carry on.
I also think history will be a little bit more kind to the Dallas team than other teams that would be the wrong team to win because people will look back and it's not a team of nobodies. I mean, people will look back if they win, Joe Pavelski will have won a cup. Corey Perry's won another cup. It'll be Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn. And so I think it's a team that history will be more kind than a team like if Buffalo won, people would have looked at that Buffalo team and it would have been, well, I mean, Dominik Hasek won, but what was the rest of that team?
Yeah. Well, I look at the regular season scoring numbers and the
Mhm.
postseason scoring numbers, and it just feels like Heiskanen and Klingberg are dragging this team over the finish line. Sean, we want to thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're running out of time here, but best of luck to you in your Dallas Stars in the attempt to become the first wrong team to win the Stanley Cup.
Hey, thanks for having me, everyone. And if as former Kings coach John Stevens told me, I had to pick against them again in all 4 rounds after they proved me wrong
There
in
you
the
go.
first 3 rounds. So that's another thing for Kings fans to root for.
Tell him we say hello.
All right, thanks. Sean. That's right.
We will.